Yes, Russia made a propaganda rom-com, and I watched it so you don't have to.
Welcome to the Crimea Bridge.
The biggest bridge in Russia.
Я его душу мотал.
Наша бригада будет вам помогать белым красим. Если где-то на стройке какой-то
Да что ты там все выбираешь? Как будто бабье друг от друга чем-то отличается.
Самую красивую.
Ты в жестком бане.
Я сварила буябес.
Уха, что ли?
Красиво.
Welcome to the Crimea Bridge, the biggest bridge in Russia.
Propaganda? Rom-Com? About a bridge. So in 2014, Russia stole a little bit of Ukraine called Crimea. It's a peninsula. It's connected to Ukraine. It looks like it might be connected to Russia over here, but that is an 11-mile gap. Crimea is more closely connected to Ukraine than it is to Russia. Geographically, economically, culturally, it's been a part of Ukraine for quite a while, but Putin wanted it, so he took it. And then immediately, first order of business, build a bridge connected to Russia. If we end up in a war, the land route to supply Crimea goes through up here, and that's Ukraine. This could go badly, so you need a bridge. Make sure you got the supply route. The bridge was also a propaganda tool. See, look, we're opening up Crimea for tourism, so the invaders can go on vacation. Vacation invasion. Invacations. That's good for economy. When they opened the bridge, Putin himself opened it. He drove across it in a truck. I'm Putin. This is a big, he's very closely associated with it. This is his idea. This is his plan to invade Putin's bridge. So part of the propaganda push of, Crimea is really Russian and we're helping it. They made a movie in 2017 called Crimea, which is it's like a war thriller about how they heroically stole Crimea. And then they made this movie, a proper rom-com ganda. It's called Crimea Bridge Made with Love, with an exclamation point. Now, I'm no bridgeologist, but if you're gonna build a bridge out of emotion, love, too volatile. I'd go with contempt. I have a quote from a reviewer. Crimea Bridge Made with Love is something of a cross between the 2008 hit musical Mamma Mia, because of the exclamation point probably, and the 1938 socialist realist fantasy Volga Volga, which was Joseph Stalin's favorite film. So this is a good mashup we're doing. Imagine if America decided, we're gonna go take over half of Cuba. We got a naval base there already, Sevastopol, Guantanamo. We're gonna take over a big chunk of it, but we're there to help them, the Cubans. So we immediately build a bridge from America's Wang down to Cuba, and then we made a movie about it. And we're like, look at us making this great bridge. And then imagine Trump personally opened it, he drove across it, which, oh my God, imagine being in a car Trump's driving, and he's tweeting the whole time. Can Trump even drive? I don't know. I've only ever seen him yelling in the truck. And then while we're building the bridge, we made a Sex and the City movie, which is all about how the Cubans love us and we have sex on the beach. And then 4 years later, we try to take the rest of Cuba, but the Cubans are ready this time and they fight back and then they blow our shit up and then they blow the bridge up on Trump's birthday. Oh, sad. Because that's what just happened. The Kerch Bridge, the Crimea Bridge, it blew up on Putin's birthday. Okay, it blew up 6 a.m. the day after his birthday. It was still his birthday here when it happened. He was hungover waking up the day after his birthday and his personal favorite bridge blew up. So happy birthday, Mr. President.
Happy birthday, Mr. President.
So anyway, I watched Crimea Bridge Made with Love, so you don't have to. Now, I took 2 years of Russian in college, which is another way of saying that we basically lit about $10,000 on fire. My Russian is a lot like this bridge. It's rusty, because it fell into the seawater. So this whole movie is free on YouTube. You have to search for it with its Cyrillic title, though. You can turn on subtitles. These are auto-generated subtitles. So for example, this video you're watching right now, YouTube/Google is going to listen to what I say, and then whatever it thinks I said, it's going to turn that into the English Purple Monkey dishwasher. Now you can then go to translate and it's gonna run what it thought you purple monkey dishwashered and turn that into subtitles that are translated. So this is like 2 levels of broken English, and that's what I watch. I don't know that my 2 years of Russian language in college helped with that. Like all I really remember is like Medved gynecolog and Psychedeliski Migribli. Let's see what those, what do the subtitles just say I said? So long story short, my Russian knowledge is not gonna be very helpful. You know, back from my 2 years of Russian I took back when I thought like tequila and Mountain Dew was a pretty good idea. So I got the gist, but don't ask me if it had a lot of witty wordplay. I'm gonna say it didn't, but I don't know.
О, поза собаки, смотрящей вниз. Походу, вот это моя любимая поза йоги.
So our Rom-Com opens in 1944. It's the end of World War II. And we've got a dude who's like a teenager and he's got a lady and they're like in love, but they live on opposite sides of the bridge. He's from Crimea, she's Russian, they're in love and they're like separated. They're like, oh, we'll meet again on the bridge someday. And then she goes back to the Russian side and then the bridge hits an iceberg like it's the Titanic, except it's not moving. It's just the ice just smashes into it. Self-driven ice, very motivated, you know. The ice is very self-motivated, I guess. Our love is now separated by a vast 11-mile strait that you could take a boat across, or you could just take a train and do that loop, I guess. But no, they'll never meet again. Unless some heroic future Russian president builds a bridge. So now we flash forward to the present. We've just stolen Crimea heroically from Ukraine, and we're building the bridge, and it's under construction, and everything's just fantastic. We then meet our modern cast, which, oh my god, it's like 5 different love triangles. The description and like the poster makes it look like there's one girl and 2 dudes that want her, and you got 1 love triangle going on. Oh my god, there's so many. It's, ugh. Main character, ready? Blonde dude, construction worker, blue collar hero man. His name is Dima, blue collar Soviet kind of hero, and you know he's good because he spends a lot of time creeping on women through binoculars. So, good dude. And at one point, he's creeping on women doing yoga on the beach, and you're like real zoomed in on a butt, and you're like, that's a good butt. And then the person turns around, and there's a surprise wiener, and it's like, oh my god. That translates, that kind of comedy, really, you don't need a translator for that one. Gay panic works in any language. But I did learn something, do yoga, because that dude had a pretty good butt. Then there's Victor. Now he's from Moscow, he's a PR guy, and he's in charge of the PR for the bridge. So this is a very rich, silver spoon in his butt kind of guy. Think 80s movie, rich kid asshole that the underdog has to go up against. Think like an 80s ski mountain, ski resort movie.
And anything less than first place will not be tolerated. In fact, it'll be punished.
Лучшие суши из лучшего в городе суши-бара. Лосось свежайший, сам ловил.
So that's Victor. Victor, PR man with a silver spoon in his butt. Dima, just blue-collar construction guy. They both want Varia, who's a lady who does yoga on the beach.
Поза голубя. Не, ну нахрен голуби, вы балласт.
So there's a part where the rich asshole Victor is having them shut down construction on the bridge so they can get like good video or good footage for his PR propaganda stuff to look how great bridge is. And so Dima's mad because he's like, this is gonna put me behind schedule for this nonsense, this superficial pictures. It's like, let me work, and you're, oh, I'm behind schedule because I'm construction worker man and I care about schedules and just doing a good job. And Victor's like, we gotta set the stage, it's gotta look pretty, I'm gonna put you behind schedule, but I don't care because I'm the rich asshole PR man. Which is so weird because this film was actually filmed during the construction of the bridge. They're villainizing the rich asshole who's like cares about superficial crap, and we're supposed to root against him for the like the hardworking blue collar guy who's trying to get the girl. He's like shutting down construction for dumb PR reasons, and we're like, oh, that's bad for schedules. That's literally what's happening in the movie. Like the movie that you're watching off screen, there are real construction workers who are like, God, what is this fucking bullshit? So it's like the movie's like self-aware. It's like getting meta about like PR propaganda movies being made during the construction of a bridge. And it's a PR propaganda movie being made during the construction of a bridge. It's like Matrix 4. For a minute, you're like, is this Matrix 4? Is this a Charlie Kaufman propaganda rom-com? Which should happen. Like, Charlie Kaufman, make a self-aware meta proper rom-com. But no, it just assumes you're too dumb to like think about this. So Varia, hot lady who does yoga, she goes on a date with Dima, blue collar man with blonde hair. And I mean, just this movie's full of dates. They're like, they go swimming with dolphins. They're just like partying on a beach. They have sex on a beach. Let's do a bonfire on the beach. Let's mud wrestle, and like a bunch of people mud wrestle, and it's like, this is so much fun. We're mud wrestling. Even the mud here is fantastic. Crimea is so nice. He gives her a present, which is a stuffed bear that he won at a carnival, because I think this film was written by a self-aware, like sentient Twitter bot troll, and it was just forced to watch like 90s sitcoms from America. So he goes to the carnival and he wins her a prize, and he gives her this stuffed bear, and immediately Victor, PR man, shows up and also gives her a present, and it's a box, and it looks like a fancy box, and you're like, oh, he's gonna bought her some Dolce & Gabbana, something very fancy and expensive. He's buying her love. It's just a box full of diamonds, whatever it is. And she's gonna be like, oh, this is great, but then we'll be like, oh, but really, the blue collar guy, you know, it's the thought that counts. And in this case, the thought was he's gonna hang out with carnies until he wins a $3 bear. But she opens the box, and in the box, what's it gonna be? Dolce & Gabbana strap-on? What is it gonna be? She opens the box, and inside is a human skull. So what? And she was like, oh, this is great, thank you. Wait, what? What's happening? This is weird. I figured it out later. We'll get to it, but pretty great moment. Good present. Did I mention there's like 13 more characters I haven't talked about yet? So let's do some of that. Here's my favorite character. His name is Tikon, and Tikon is me. They wrote me into this movie, so that's fun. He's a journalist who's a little bitch boy, who he slathers himself in hand sanitizer constantly. If he touches a plebe, then he has to hand sanitizer. He calls his mom on his cell phone constantly. He's always calling his mom. He's a little mama's boy, bitch boy. He dresses like a hipster. He, you know, thick glasses, just hipster everything. He is very I am very smart. Just any conversation, he's constantly like, oh, well, that reminds me of this Shakespeare quote. Oh, that reminds me of this philosopher. Oh, remember this moment in a Pushkin play? And it's just like, this transcended the subtitles. I was annoyed by this dude, okay? Just name dropping every goddamn bullshit he took in a grad studies course 10 years ago, whatever. He literally calls these other like blue collar dudes plebes, plebeians, these plebes. He tries to milk a cow and he can't figure out how to do it. And he has a YouTube channel. So, you know the movie's gonna go really well for him. You know, this is gonna work out. So Tikon is in Crimea to write an article for his fake news, whatever, about how Crimea was stolen from Ukraine.
Я вот статью пишу про ваш мост.
Доброе утро.
Right, and he goes to a market, but he can't touch anything. There's germs everywhere, and he's trying to talk to his mom, but his phone battery dies, and he's like, I don't know what to do if my phone's dead. And some man, real man, has to just like help him use a phone. Anyway, so then he tries to talk to somebody about like, so like when Russia stole Crimea, how did you feel about that? And all the Crimeans like attack him, and like they like chase him out of this market because they're like, you bitch, Russia didn't take us, we love Russia. So yeah, the local Crimeans, they love Russia so much. And if you even are like, so what was it like when Russia took over? They're like, we're all Russian, fuck you, you fake news journalist. But while he's at that market, he achieves love at first sight. He sees a girl who's selling fish. He sees a fish girl, and he is like, I want her. And so his big move, hit on the girl, is he takes a video or a photo of her and he posts it on Instagram. It's a good move. It's a solid move right there. But then he goes with her to like her house, and she lives with her grandpa, and guess what? Her grandpa was at the market and saw him being like attacked and like being a bitch boy journalist, so grandpa hates him. You know, fake news, little bitch boys. So how can he win over Grandpa? I don't know. What will he do? All right, then we meet a dude, I'm gonna call him Hollywood. I think his character's name was Barrick. He's got like I'm pretty sure he's got a wig. This dude's got a wig and a hat on. And he's like, I want to be an American, and I'm going to move to America, and I'm going to be the next Antonio Banderas. I'm gonna be a famous actor in Hollywood and eat hamburger. And that's his entire personality. He's just been brainwashed by all those American films that, you know, he thinks America's so great because he watched Taxi Driver and Seven and, you know, oh, America, I want to go. Now, he's got a hot girlfriend, a local Crimean. Notice a trend here. All the Crimean women, super hot, okay? It's like Miami Beach in the 80s. They're all on cocaine. Everyone is hot. So he's got a girlfriend who's pretty hot, and she's got like some tats and like dyed hair. Cool girl. She's a cool girl. But he meets an American girl, and her name is Rachel Green, because this film was written by a Twitter bot that was forced to watch 90s sitcoms, because that's Jennifer Aniston's character name in Friends.
I'm sorry, I don't speak Russian.
Welcome to the Crimea Bridge, the biggest bridge in Russia.
So anyway, Rachel from Friends shows up. He meets an American girl and is like, I'm going to marry her so that I can get a green card from Rachel Green and move to America, right? And he's just like, immediately gloms onto her like, we're in love and we're going to get married. And I was hoping she would be like, what's going on? But she, of course, is dumb and was like, oh, we're in love. So he ditches his hot Crimean girlfriend to go with the American girl. What I haven't told you yet is American girl, obese. Because all Americans are probably obese. Now this actress is actually Russian. So if I'm gonna give an award for best acting in the film, this Russian actress, because she has a great American accent, and she got obese for the part, because there's no obese Russians. So like this is like a Christian Bale kind of move. So I'm excited to see what other proper rom-coms she's in and her future career. I'm sure she's very talented. Only obese person in the film is the fat American. All the Russian women, super hot and skinny. Even though like babushkas, you're like, that's a pretty good looking babushka. Well, okay, so he goes to buy a ring, and he goes to a G word, you know, G word we're not supposed to say anymore. Traveling people. He goes to them like it's on the side of the road. They're like covered in mud. And he's selling knockoff jewelry, fake ring, fake diamonds, whatever. And the G word guy is like, here, I'll give you this ring for 20 bucks. Take my daughter, or take this daughter. I'm gonna try to marry off my daughter to you. And these daughters all have fat unibrows. So I take it back. All the Russians and Crimeans, Ukrainians are super hot. The G words and the Americans, not so much. There's a schlubby Russian guy, it's a cop, just kind of a normal schlubby guy. And when Barrick, when Hollywood abandons his hot girlfriend for the fat American, the schlubby cop, whose name I think is Max, he's like, I want that cool girl with the tats and stuff, Hollywood's ex-girlfriend. But she is so far out of his league, but guess what? Crimean lady, Russian dude, it's just love. It's just like a bridge made of love. A bridge between a guy who's in the minors and a lady who's super hot in the pros. There's a bridge there. And it's made of love. Putin made it possible for schlubby cops to get hot Crimean ladies. It's very important. It's a very important film. So anyway, Hollywood, he's ready to go propose to the American girl because they've known each other for 45 minutes. And he drives her out to the middle of nowhere with her blindfolded, and he takes the blindfold off of her and he proposes, but she doesn't say anything, and she instead puts the blindfold on him, and there's like a cut. It's like a long time has passed, and then he finally takes the blindfold off, and I was like, she's gonna have abandoned him or something, you know, he's gonna just be stuck in the wild. Maybe she robbed him, I don't know. He takes the blindfold off and she's just standing there naked. Okay, so I learned something from this film. If you propose to an American woman, what she will do is not say yes or no. Instead, she will get naked and make you stare at her rolls. Again, I'm not fat shaming her. The film is, okay? I'm interpreting. Don't be mad at me. Be mad at whatever Tigran. Now my favorite part of the film, even better than the skull, I laughed out loud at this. So after they get married and Hollywood is like, we're moved to Hollywood and I made it, I'm gonna move to America with my green card wedding to my lady whose last name is Green. And then she has a surprise for him, which is she bought a house in Crimea and we're gonna live here. So he's stuck in Crimea still.
I love this house.
Какой прекрасный дом.
Don't dream of leaving Crimea. Crimea is so great. People want to come there. And if you dream of leaving to go to somewhere bullshit like Hollywood, you're gonna have to marry a fat lady. And you still don't go to Hollywood. And a cop is gonna steal your ex-girlfriend. More characters, ready? There's a lady, I don't know, she's like 60. I called her Ukrainian Karen in my mind. She gets in a fight about celery. At one point, she is just like standing around with a basketball and just like throws it backwards over her head and makes a shot. And you're like, what was that? And they show like a picture of her on like an Olympic Soviet team or something. I think what's going on is it's saying something about like, back in the good Soviet days, we were great at the Olympics, but once the empire broke up, and now it's Ukraine, she had to be on just a shitty Ukrainian women's team, and that's not as fun. And also she's 60, so like, I don't know. So I think there's something about pining away for the good old days of the empire. Somebody who speaks Russian, you watch the film, write in the comments, am I full of shit about what was going on with the basketball stuff? I don't know. Anyway, she is like a cook. She says bouillabaisse about 47 times in the film.
Bouillabaisse. Bouillabaisse. Блюдо высокой французской кухни.
But she's really obsessed with or like crushing on a dude who's just like a fisherman. And he is completely oblivious. He's just like this crusty old fisherman, and she's like trying to get his attention, and he's just totally oblivious to it.
Давай я заштопаю, Михалыч.
Справлюсь не без руки.
Ты шо? Пара!
So while that's going on, the hero construction worker and the PR guy are trying to get this girl, and then this girl is obsessed, has a crush on him, but he doesn't know about that. And then there's the Hollywood guy, and then there's the cop, and then there's Ukrainian Karen. All of those things are going on. Very little other plot is happening. At one point, somebody flicks a cigarette, and it shows it like land in this like dry grass, like we're at our beach, one of the 7 beach party scenes. But it cuts away, and then it's like 10 hours later, like now it's nighttime when I was in the daytime, and now there's like a fire on the beach, and you're like, oh, a fire, and they're gonna get in trouble for starting a fire. And then like a fire truck rolls up, and Victor, the PR guy, is like riding the fire truck. I was like, I don't understand this character. Was he hanging out with firemen? I don't know. Victor, the PR guy, brings an American film crew to show them the bridge, the great bridge, and how great it is in Crimea. And they get a little plane. Dima, construction worker hero man, is in the plane, and then the pilot of the plane passes out for some reason, I don't know. And so Dima, the construction worker, has to heroically take charge and fly the plane. And then the like fuel cuts out for I don't know why. Again, was it sabotage? I don't know. I couldn't tell what was going on at that point. So now he has to emergency land it, and where? On the bridge that's under construction. So okay. At one point, a fellow construction worker like falls off the bridge into the water. But again, this bridge is like, it's like 20 foot. It's like a 25-foot drop or something. But he dives in and he has to save him. Tikon, the Mekon hand sanitizer, little bitch boy, he goes around filming constantly with his phone. He's just always filming. Like, I was like, I don't know. He's just like collecting information for his article or something. But no, he starts like, he's posting creep shots on Instagram, but he's just like posting embarrassing videos of people. So like old racist grandpa, that's the grandpa of the lady he's interested in, is just going on a rant because he's like watching Russian Fox News, and just starts like ranting, and he like films that and just posts it on YouTube. And then like, I think the blonde dude was like creeping on women with binoculars, and he films him doing that and posts that on YouTube. So this is what journalists do. They just like film people doing embarrassing things and then post that online. It's like cancel culture. This is what journalists do. They just go around trying to make like TikTok videos embarrassing people. Propaganda. Propaganda. So then we cut ahead many, many months. The bridge is done. It's just like lined with all these Russian flags, and everyone's just walking across it. This is great. Everyone's happy. Like all these love triangles are resolved. And so like Varia, yoga lady, she went with the construction worker guy. They had sex on the beach to consummate. PR guy, Victor, he loses, but at this event, he's got a hot lady anyway, and she's like way pregnant. So many months have passed, and even if you lost that love triangle, you've got a hot lady anyway, everyone's happy. Even Hollywood is there with his fat American wife and is just super happy, and he's just like learned to love to live in Crimea, and we're just also happy. But there's one person that's unhappy, Victor, the PR guy, and he is weeping, just weeping. He's like holding a tablet, because he's watching like CNN, NBC News or whatever, and those Americans he brought to film his beautiful bridge. They say that it's a Potemkin bridge. It's basically saying like, this is all a facade, this is all for show. The Crimeans don't really like Russia, whatever. And he's just like, I worked so hard on my propaganda and the Americans lied about it. It's like, are we supposed to feel bad for him? Like, he was the 80s rich asshole villain for most of this movie. And now it's like, no, but he's the victim of that American propaganda. Because they reported what was happening, and it doesn't go along with his propaganda. It's so sad for him. So like, you put silver spoon in his butt man up against hardworking construction hero blonde guy, but now we're supposed to like him? It's like, read the room, guys. It's like, you built the room. But remember the very beginning, 1944, bridge destroyed by ice, grandpa, grandma separated for generations. Well, guess what? That dude is the grandpa, the racist grandpa that hates Tikhon, right? Tikhon gave up on his article about how Crimea was stolen and instead has been tracking down grandma, who lives in Siberia, literally. And he brings them together, and they meet by walking together on the bridge. And he's found his lost love because they've been separated for like 70 years because they couldn't take a ferry or a train. They needed Putin to build this bridge out of love. So that's how Tikhon wins, is he stops being a little bitch journalist and gets Grandpa laid. That's what Grandpa wants. It's a love story as powerful as Titanic between the old lady and that diamond she loves. Yeah. There's someone listed in the cast as being Oliver Stone, and I missed that completely. Write in the comments what was going on there. I have no idea. They use essentially the sad walking away music from The Incredible Hulk like twice. Okay, here's some reviews from Russia. A stream of borderline racist and sexist jokes are apparently aimed at Western political correctness, a favorite target for Putin and his supporters just as much as for Trump. In addition to the lying American journalists, the film takes other subtle digs at the US. Such unabashed manipulation has left many Russians disillusioned. Quote, "After watching it, I became so unbearably ashamed for my once great country that I'd prefer to erase it from memory for good." Here's a quote for you. "Propaganda is an organized machine run by a clever and cynical machinist from somewhere above. Here we see something else, an insane phantasmagoria, extremely far not only from reality, but also from the elementary laws of plot composition and plausibility. A world hopelessly twisted by the benevolent fantasy of power-loving loyalists. The sun always shines in this world, and even ordinary mud is healing. Here they run along the shore half-dressed or completely naked, as in paradise. There's no place for despondency or melancholy in Crimea. Everyone smiles and laughs and jokes and uses folk expressions. For example, a girl who has become pregnant from an accidental guest performer I think that is a translation from One Night Stand, an accidental guest performer. So even a girl who's become pregnant from a one night stand is consoled like this, quote, "It's no big deal, you'll give birth to the future president of the Russian Federation." So if you have a one night stand with a Russian guy, it's like, well, you'll have the baby that'll be the future president. Here are some other pearls of folklore wisdom caught and creatively reworked by the screenwriter. At one point someone says like, how can you be attracted to him? He's not from here. And the lady responds like, well, Brad Pitt's not from here. So, Brad Pitt, you can invade my peninsula any day. Quote, "Free wind, smoke in my ass. It's good to be young." The movie did not do well. It lost at the box office to a comedy called I'm Losing Weight. So, it bombed in Russia. Speaking of bombing...
The only link between Crimea and Russian land partially collapsed after a major explosion which set a train on fire and killed several people.
This is a bridge that was a symbol of Russian power. So inflicting such serious damage clearly is taken by the Ukrainian as a morale boost.
Experts agree that if Kyiv managed to pull off this operation, it shows a dramatic increase in its ability to counter Russia's invasion.
This bridge was one of the most highly protected structures in the world. This is an attack that is hundreds of miles from the Ukrainian lines, so it would have required deep infiltration into Russian territory and a very high level of secrecy.
The bridge is a strategic artery for the supply of fuel, military equipment, and food to Russian troops fighting to hold ground in southern Ukraine.
Ukraine is just crushing it on Twitter. There's a lot of fun stuff there. This movie, they keep talking about how beautiful the bridge is. It's like, her? But now I see it. I get it now. That's a beautiful bridge. So who made this garbage? The director is Tigran Kiyosyan, who's a pro-Putin, pro-Kremlin, bootlicking comedian who has a comedy show called International Sawmill. On his show, they had a woman in blackface as Obama, so that's neat.
Здравствуйте, здравствуйте.
Black Lives Matter! Black
Да
Lives
можете не орать.
Matter!
У нас нет расизма. Максимум вас с цыганом перепутают.
Потому что до меня никто из моих родственников вообще не умел писать.
Пока Европа задыхается в душных клубах русофобии, а США не могут открыть глаз от начавшейся аллергии на толерантность, международная пилорама глотком свежего юмора врывается в ваши квартиры, в то время как Америка продолжает покрываться льдом холодной войны, а от градуса русофобии в старушке Европе лопаются русофобометры, в то время как в Америке снежные бабы обвиняют в харассменте снеговиков, а в Европе продолжает пузыриться жижа толерантности, в то время как старушка Европа пытается освободиться от похотливых объятий дядюшки Сэма, международная пилорама пробивается лучом света.
The writer is his wife, and she is the editor-in-chief of RT, Russia Today, their Fox News. I mean, it's really like worse than Fox News, because like Fox News is like worried about like, we got to make Democrats look bad. Now imagine if like they made being a Democrat illegal, and now they didn't really have any opposition, and they could just like get weird with it. That's Russia Today. So Margarita, writer, Tigran, director, married. They've both been sanctioned by the EU for anti-Ukrainian propaganda. And this is the power couple that made this film. So Margarita was appointed editor-in-chief of Russia Today when she was 25 years old. She stated in a 2008 interview that, quote, her age often leads people to make assumptions about how she got her job. So people say she slept her way to the top because, you know, 25-year-old woman editor-in-chief. Andrei Richter, the director of the Moscow Media Law and Policy Institute and a journalism professor at Moscow State, suggests that she was appointed because she's well connected to Putin. So maybe she didn't sleep her way to the top, maybe she metaphorically whored her way to the top. In April of this year, Margarita Simonyan proposed basically getting rid of the Russian First Amendment, their like freedom of speech. According to her, freedom of speech will, quote, lead to the collapse of Russia. So she's a journalist who thinks free speech is bad. Tigran, director man, quote, a long time ago, I had an incredible fatigue from our cinema. Do we really only have bribe takers, murderers, bestialists, bestiality people, drug addicts, corrupt officials all around us? Like, if you make movies, why is it just full of like bad, like people who take bribes and corrupt officials and People have sex with animals, I guess. So here's my question. Is there a lot of bestiality in Russia? Write in the comments how much bestiality there is. Or don't. So he's just mad because he wants to go to film, go to the cinema, and see movies that make Russia look nice. He doesn't want to see stuff about how we did the genocide or, you know, are all corrupt. So anyway, according to an article by Alexei Navalny, the article is, quote, made with nepotism. The budget of the film is 154 million rubles. 2/3 of that was in federal money. The federal Russian government paid for this movie. 1/3 of it came from the Russian billionaire whose company built the bridge. According to the Anti-Corruption Foundation, the family took roughly 30% of the budget. So a third of the money went to like this power couple and their kids. So Margarita, for writing it, made 9 million rubles. Tigran made 14 million for directing. Tigran's daughter, who is not an actress, her role was director's assistant. So she's getting him coffee. If she's even doing that, she's probably not even there. But anyway, she made 4 million rubles to work as his assistant. His brother made 8 million as a producer. There's a long list of relatives that made money on this. The entire cast of the film made 10 million rubles. That paid your whole cast. The 2 lead stars made 1.8 and 1.3 million rubles. The director's daughter, as his assistant, made 4 million. She made more than the 2 lead stars combined. So he's like, what? All the movies have to be about corruption? Russia is so great, you guys. Like, I got the government to pay me and my family a shitload of money to make a movie, and then we didn't even have to pay the actors, like, barely anything, because, like, they just love being in movies. It's great. So this is post-Soviet Russia in a nutshell. It's a kleptocracy. During the Soviet Union, everything's state-owned, like car factories, steel plants, oil refineries. Those are all owned by the government. And so when the collapse of the Soviet Union happens because they were broke, they're like, well, let's sell these off so rich people can own them. We'll be like the West. So like the old KGB and the Russian mafia and the corrupt politicians just like took everything. All this stuff that was state-owned is now like owned by a few billionaire assholes and their families. It was a joke in the 90s that once the fall of communism happened, because the Soviets were broke, suddenly all of the like European elite spots like Monaco were just full of Russians trying to like buy apartments and super yachts and Ferraris, because they're just like, it's a kleptocracy. They're stealing all this stuff. Just like imagine if the president of the United States could just like take half the federal budget, the like trillions of dollars of tax money that's supposed to go to paying for all these things, and just like take half of it and then like give it away to all the buddies he needs to keep happy. That's how Russia works. We wonder why Putin is so firmly in power. Just all the important people are taking like billions of dollars from him. So of course they're happy with Putin being in power. Putin is the richest dude on earth. He's just hidden everywhere. He's got so much money. And the Russians, with their shitloads of cash and their mafia connections and all this, they bought all the super yachts and the Ferraris, and they're like, well, now what? And so for a while, what are they doing with that money but bribing politicians in other countries? And maybe we can buy ourselves a president or two, or just spend it on like Twitter bots and hackers and getting compromat and spreading misinformation on Facebook. And you can maybe influence racist grandpa, or you can hack into an election or get Brexit to happen and shit like that. In 2015 at the University of Missouri, which is where I teach, although at a different campus, this is about me personally. I'm involved now. This is a story about me. University of Missouri in 2015, there's a bunch of racially charged incidents, protests. Part of this was there's a poop swastika on the wall of like a dorm. And they never caught the guy. They never found who made the poop swastika. So somewhere out there's a dude with a swastika-shaped anus. And I think we need to get to the bottom of that one. Because, he's spreading Nazi ideology with his anus. So that makes him ass gerbils. After the poop swastika and like Columbia, Missouri having a history of racism, shocking, I know, there's like protests, and there's like protesters like camping out on like the lawns on campus, and then like racist dicks in their Ford pickup trucks were like driving on the lawns, like threatening those people and like waving Confederate flags and shit like that. It turns out Russia did that. Maybe not the poop swastika, although I can't prove that they didn't. According to an article from Strategic Studies Quarterly, that liberal rag, a Twitter user named Jermaine something or other, he posted on Twitter that KKK members are marching with cops, and they had beaten up his little brother, and there's a picture of like a beat up little black kid. And this got trending on Twitter, and it was like trending with a hashtag and like pray for Mizzou or something like that. And then like a week later, this Jermaine dude, this exact Twitter user, is posting in German about Syrian refugees. I'm quoting from the article now. His tweets reached a crescendo after reports of women being raped on New Year's Eve 2016. Some of the reports were false, including a high-profile case of a 13-year-old ethnic Russian girl living in Berlin who falsely claimed she was abducted and raped by refugees. Once again, Russian propaganda dominated the narrative. Similar to previous disinformation campaigns on Twitter, the Russian trolls were able to spread the information because of an underlying fear, an existing narrative that they are able to exploit. The trolls used trend hijacking techniques in concurrence with reporting by Russian state-funded television network Russia Today, who the writer of this film was their editor-in-chief, to attempt to generate more attention to the Russian anti-Merkel narrative in European media. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov accused German authorities of a politically correct cover-up. Because of the Russian propaganda push, the anti-immigration narrative began spreading across traditional European media. In fact, a magazine in Poland devoted an entire issue to the topic of Muslim immigration with a disturbing cover photo entitled Islamic Rape of Europe. So it was a bullshit story about a rape that didn't happen. They amplify it by like making it seem legit with Russia Today, and then other media outlets also pick up on it. So it's not just like shit posting on 4chan. Russian bots and hackers are working together with their legitimate news. They're trying to go after like politicians that are tough on Russia and like make them look bad and like prop up the politicians running against them who maybe are in their pockets as well. And guess which side they were on the Brexit vote, yeah?
This is the kind of political analysis Russia's state-controlled television apparently likes. Please show us Tucker Carlson, the host says. He's the man playing out all the complaints against President Biden, she explains.
Vladimir Putin does not want Belgium. He just wants to keep his western border secure. That's why he doesn't want Ukraine to join NATO. And that makes sense. Imagine how we would feel if Mexico and Canada became satellites of China.
It's essentially what the Kremlin says, so no surprise, the studio guests agree. Excellent performance, exclaims this editor of a Russian national defense journal.
Wouldn't it be great if we actually got along with Russia?
Like former President Trump taking the side of Putin over US intelligence agencies on Russia meddling in the US election. Russia denied it. Trump at first agreed.
I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be.
At the time, even Russian TV anchors seemed surprised.
Hello.
President Biden has been more critical of Putin in public, a tougher stance that's helped make the US president much less popular in Russia than his predecessor. Where criticism of President Biden is widespread,
There's nothing we could possibly gain from a military confrontation.
and his American critics are held up for praise.
Now we have to talk about the most egregious part of this very fun and very cool propaganda film that was described by Putin's spokespeople as light, summery, kind, and touching. So old grandpa man from the 40s where the bridge collapsed, he's a Crimean Tatar. The Tatars are this people, they're Turkish, Muslim. They've not had a great time of it historically in Crimea, meaning genocide and deportation and rape, murder, torture, etc. So in the article, Love Conquers Truth, the Nazis took over Crimea and did their own deportation and murder and genocide. And then the Soviets took it back and Stalin was immediately like, you know what we need to do here now? More genocide. In fact, Simonian's masterpiece, she's the writer of this film, was filmed just a few dozen kilometers from the Arabat Spit, where the last pockets of Crimean Tatars who had escaped deportation were loaded onto a boat that was then scuttled in the Sea of Azov. That is, they rounded up the last few Tatars they could find after they kicked the Nazis out, and they loaded them on one boat, and then they went and intentionally sank their own boat. So Damir, that's the old Tatar grandpa, Damir is a forgiving type. At one point discussing his own family's fate under Stalin, so genocide, he says, quote, "They were sent away. That means it had to be." Well, I mean, if Stalin killed them in genocide, I mean, you kind of had to. Like, they were asking for it. Since Russia stole Crimea in 2014, they've been persecuting the Tatars again, and there's all kinds of reporting on this, and people going missing and being tortured and all kinds of stuff. Here's an article called "A Bridge Too Far for Russia's Propagandists." Damir, the Tatar character, listens to a political program on a state-run TV channel. He nods in agreement as the host argues that Western democracy can't possibly work for every country. So yeah, this is a Crimean totter who's like, I really want to be reunited with that Russian lady, and also Stalin's genocide of my people was like pretty cool. Ukraine's flag represents a wheat field and a blue sky because it's the breadbasket of Europe. And this is why Hitler wanted to take it, because he really wanted bread, and bread's bad for you, Hitler. So like, you people who think bread's good, you agree with Hitler. Estonia's flag is similar. Yeah, look at Estonia's flag. Here's some Estonia. It looks like a Depression commercial. Ukraine was a founding member of the Soviet Union because they were all about the like, hey, let's kill all the kings and then like be communists and we'll all be equal and no more aristocracy. They were on board with that. And then the Soviets almost immediately enacted a policy called Hodor something, which is also called a terror famine. European history is fun. Ukrainians maybe don't love the Soviets so much. Now when the Nazis took Crimea, guess what their first move was? Hey, we should build a bridge here connected to Russia so we can invade Russia further and go to Stalingrad. And then when the Soviets were coming back, the Germans hadn't finished it, so they demolished what they had built and kept retreating. And as soon as the Soviets retook Crimea, the first thing they did was, hey, we should build a bridge here. And they used the leftover crap that the Germans had laying around to build their bridge. And it was the largest bridge in the Soviet Union for 4 months, and then it collapsed. So if you think that invading somewhere and then building a bridge right away is a good idea, I've got a bridge to sell you. All right, so after the Soviet Union broke up, Ukraine went independent. They had an independence vote, and every single state of Ukraine, more than 50% of people voted to go independent, including Crimea. More than 50% said, yes, let's be independent, let's leave the Soviet, let's be Ukraine. But Russia, ruled by a lot of these like ex-KGB people, they want their Soviet Union empire back. So he has, you know, with their trillions of shitty kleptocracy money, he's got his puppets. So Belarus is run by his puppet, Lukashenko, who's friends with Steven Seagal. And in Ukraine, they had their own puppet, Putin buddy president, who's just doing whatever Putin wants. He ran on the platform of do whatever Putin wants. Viktor Yanukovych. He was doing all kinds of shit, police brutality, rigging elections, just corruption. And he was helped get elected and be the president by Paul Manafort. Wrote like his victory speech and all his PR campaigns to make him look better. That was Paul Manafort, really helping out Putin puppet president, Paul Manafort. A few years later, Paul Manafort was Trump's campaign manager to run for president. In 2014, the Ukrainians rose up and overthrew the Putin puppet bitch, and he fled to go live in exile with Daddy Putin in Russia. And Putin responded by just like taking over Crimea, and they're propping up these fake independence movements. And like Ukraine was just not prepared to stop them. They weren't like ready. So they've had this like ongoing conflict for years, and like tens of thousands have been killed in these just ongoing little minor skirmishes. And Russia shot down a civilian airliner again. So Zelensky, who is now the president of Ukraine.
If you do win. Якщо ви переможете, чи виживе Володимир Путін?
Мені все одно.
He was a comedian, actor dude. He had a show where he was like just like a history teacher, just a nobody history teacher, and he like went on a rant about like, I'm mad as hell, I'm not gonna take it anymore. There's all these corrupt politicians. And then like he somehow gets elected president, but he's a fish out of water. He's just a history teacher and he's the president now and he's trying to figure it out. And it's a comedy, but like heartwarming. I don't know, I have not watched it. So they make that show, and then like 4 years later, he's actually elected president in real life. That's who their president is. It's like if we elected Jon Stewart president. So after Russia is like, we're just gonna take shit, we're gonna take that, that's ours now, we're taking this, and we shut down that civilian airliner, our bad. So they didn't say that. A lot of the rest of the world in Europe was like, all right, we don't want Putin to just feel emboldened that he can just keep taking things, and so let's arm Ukraine and let's get them ready to fight. Lots of weapons and gear and all that, so that if Putin really wants to attack, like they can defend themselves instead of having to just capitulate like they did in 2014. Donald Trump calls up Zelensky and says, hey, I need you to make up some dirt saying that Joe Biden's really corrupt and that he was involved in some Ukrainian corruption shit and his son was doing a thing, whatever. Make up some dirt, send it to me. I can use that against Biden in the election. And if you don't, I'm gonna cut off those weapons and all that funding we're supposed to be giving you to fight Putin. So anyway, Trump is just outright helping Putin. Let's not arm your enemy and undercutting him. And So that happened. This is the reason Trump was impeached the first time, and all the Republicans were like, no, this is fine. Hey, remember how we talked about how Putin is just like siphoning off all the money, all the tax dollars, so him and his cronies can just like be super rich and live in Monaco and have super yachts? Yeah, so you can get away with that for a while until your military has to like function, and then it's like, oh wait, how come none of this shit works and it's all broken? Russia has an aircraft carrier. No, they don't. Russia has 0.3 aircraft carriers because every time it tries to go anywhere, it like catches fire and then has to be towed home, and then they have to repair it for 2 years, and then it tries to go again and then it catches fire and has to be repaired for 2 years. So that's embarrassing, but like just kind of funny. But when your military is like actually fighting a war and then shit like that happens, yikes. And then you're like, hey, what happened to our big like flagship missile cruiser? It's just doing submarining. It's a new feature it has. It can drive around underwater.
A ship of that size should not sink because it had a fire on board. Its fire control measures should be such that wherever the fire was, it could be dealt with. No, the Russian line on this is a load of baloney.
The bridge blowing up is a huge deal. I mean, it happened on Putin's birthday. It's this propaganda symbol. They made a proper Rom-Com about it. It being blown up is this huge blow to logistics, and like, can they supply Crimea if the land route, if Ukraine takes back Ukraine, they'll be cut off, and you'll have like lots and lots of Russians who are on their beach vacations just stranded there. I didn't realize until after I watched the movie and I started reading some more stuff, a lot of stuff that I was putting through Google Translate because there's not very much in English about this movie. But I discovered that Varia, hot girl that does yoga on the beach, she's an archaeologist, and her like hot friends are like a team of archaeologists, and they're like uncovering Greek shit next to the beach, which makes the skull thing make more sense now. Oh, okay, because she's an archaeologist, I guess. But in my defense, here is a video of them doing archaeology. Like, that's how they're dressed to do archaeology. I think that makes the scene like funnier. Like, we're doing archaeology on the beach in our bikinis. It's like, okay. So anyway, I've got an idea for a movie. You ready for this? It's about a heroic 25-year-old salt of the earth propaganda mogul, but it's sexy and is an archaeologist, right? And she's on an archaeology beach vacation, and there she runs into the president of ABC and News and finds out that he is gonna put out this bullshit fake news story saying that her friend, by the way, her best friend is the president of Russia. I don't know if I said that. ABC and News guy is gonna put out a story about how the president of Russia is like kind of bad. But she meets a dude on her beach vacation who's like a window washer in New York City. His name is Joey Tribbiani. They work together with their blue-collar window washing skills, and they like do a heist and break into the ABC News headquarters to go like do some hacking or something, and they like get compromising material on the ABC president and discover that, shocking, he's a werewolf, and that's why he doesn't like the Russian president, because the Russian president got rich because he bought all the Russian silver mines for like 9 rubles back in 1991. So that's why he doesn't like him. Why do werewolves not like silver? I don't know that one. So she and her window washer friend are gonna blackmail the president of ABC and News. But then the window washer, whose name is Joey Tribbiani, he has an idea, which is, I don't know. I have no idea where I'm going with this. So if you finish the story in the comments, we'll do a little creative writing exercise in Exquisite Corpse. So, long story short about this film, why are you watching me? You know, just like ignore the fake news and the hipster YouTube channel bitch. You know, when it comes to propaganda and rom-coms, I say, just live your life. Just have fun. Go out, go to the beach, do a little archaeology, you know? Have a one-night stand with an invader. What's the worst that can happen? Your baby's definitely gonna be the president. Cover yourself in mud and like get skull presents. Walk across a bridge. You never know. If you walk across a bridge, you might fall in love. You know, love at first sight. You might meet a fish girl. Forget about the fake news and those lying journalists. Just like cover yourself in mud and go like swim with dolphins. Get in arguments about celery. Make bouillabaisse and like spill milk on your face. Whitewash some genocide and then happen. And, you know, like dig up some skulls and creep on women with binoculars. You know, it's just have a good time. You know, don't worry about the news and what the media says. But most importantly, remember, bridges are very cool and sometimes made with love.
Я сварила буябес. Буябес.
Неоправданно нарядный город, что неизменно молод, где выплывают на...
I love this house.
And I think we should probably take the side of Russia if we have to choose between Russia and Ukraine. That is my view. Why do I care what's going on in the conflict between Ukraine and Russia? And I'm serious. Like, why do I care? Tell you why. And why shouldn't I root for Russia, which I am? Putin, for all his faults, does not hate America as much as many of these people do. Mouthing the talking points of Putin. Russia didn't hack our democracy.
I really hope that you and President Putin get together and can solve the problem. That would be a tremendous achievement. And I know you're trying to do that.
Don't get confused here, because Crimea Bridge and then this part of Russia is called Kuban with a K, not Cuban, but Kuban. So don't buy any Kuban cigars. Is all, you know, it's probably like 8 knockoff Marlboros duct taped together with some manure or something. By the way, I've got a Ukrainian vodka in here. Let's do some Ukrainian vodka. This is a Russian Navy flask from World War II. It's not really from World War II, and I filled it with Ukrainian vodka.